And this is one of those things where I said counseling is necessary. And then you have to get counseling not only for each other, but for your children if there are children involved. There's nothing wrong with counseling. They still have, they have family counselors out there, and they still teach and do it biblically. Correct. Is what I'm saying. There are psychologists, psychiatrists, and you don't need most people don't need a psychiatrist.
Some do.
Some do, but psychologists, they are there to help you grow when you have issues, and so. Yeah, the divorce is just it's crazy.
Painful.
It's painful.
It's painful.
And it is. It's painful, it's turbulent, and you need something outside of your normal to help you get through it.
Hello, everybody, friends, family, well-wishers. We welcome you back to Conversations Beyond the Pulpit, the podcast where we delve into the depths of human experience through the lens of faith. I'm your host, Bishop Joseph N. Roberts, Jr., always joined by my lovely co-host, elect lady, Pastor Michelle Roberts. We have another exciting and exhilarating topic for today. We're going to be addressing the notion of divorce, especially in the context of celebrity breakups. We're hearing on the news today a lot of celebrities are breaking up or experiencing difficulties and complexities within their marriage. So when we look at that through the lens of faith and understand that marriage is a similitude of Christ and the church, we want to just bring a lens of faith and a different set of optics to why we should be married, the loyalty and commitment we should have to one another within a marriage. And I believe when we look at celebrities, it's just like us today as we are patterning our lives for success and career goal-oriented, that sometimes we bring this into our marriage and it can become the breakdown of our marriage. So I believe when we look at whether it's celebrities or everyday married couple who are striving for excellence, striving for fame, striving for success, striving for fortunes, that it's important the ebb and flows, meaning the highlights of our careers or the downsides of our careers, we have to be committed to each other where it doesn't break down the marriage institution that God created for us and the plight that we're supposed to have, because that plight is to death us do part. I know there's a lot of different marriage ceremonies today where the preacher does not orientate that through good times, bad times, rich or poor, sickness, health. But today we're going to look at that and talk about the complexities of, one, not patterning your marriage after celebrities or other people, getting married for the right reasons, and when there seems to be incompatible times, how do you fight to get that compatibility back in the marriage, that continuity and consistency? So we're excited. We've been married for quite a while now. We're not novices at this, so I think you got a good set of people to talk about it. Dear?
I think so, too. I mean, this is a topic. It affects many people. It carries a lot of important lessons in marriage and in life. I mean, it's crazy. I've had people tell me, yeah, I'm getting married and this is my first marriage. And I'm like, well, okay, don't you expect this to be your only marriage? And they're like, well, people get divorced a lot. I'm hoping that at least last 5 years. I'm like, well, you shouldn't go into marriage already with the notion of divorce. It's
Can I interject
crazy.
something? And I don't mean to do this, but I have to. It's not going to take
me
long. In the previous podcast, we talked about whole life insurance and term life insurance. And marriage is something that gives us assurance, but insurance, the two become one. And so when we think about that from a life insurance, it's to death do us part. It's a whole life policy,
It's a
marriage.
whole life
And
policy.
so we can't go into marriage with a term mindset.
Exactly.
This is where I'm at in my career right now. This is where I'm at in my finances right now. And I'm giving this just like I do my career goal building. If it's not here in 5 years, then the term of the marriage is over. So you hit something that just got my mind going.
But that's how people think. They don't think about it as for a lifetime. And then they don't realize that you do this, you start bringing children in it, and how it affects the children. I know that's a whole nother subject. That can be a whole nother topic by itself.
Yep.
But they don't realize how it affects the children and how the parents treat the children once that divorce happens.
That is
So
true.
it is a big thing. And yes, on TV, we hear about it all the time. This celebrity's getting divorced, that celebrity's getting divorced, they've been married this long, that long. But you can't live your life through the eyes of celebrities. Because, again, they get married for one reason or another. But if you get married for love and faith, you do it with stick-to-itness.
Yes.
And, I know people that have been divorced many times. I know people that have been divorced one time. I know a lot of people that ain't never been divorced. But I spoke about this, I think it could have been our first podcast, but either way, it was in the first set about how I grew up in a family where divorces happened. So when I decided to get married, that I knew it was going to be forever.
Whole life policy.
Whole life policy. That insurance policy is going to be there forever.
Yes.
So it's something, and it doesn't just hurt the children, it hurts the individual adults also.
Let's save that for later.
Yes.
Okay.
But it hurts a lot of people. But yeah, you can't get married because you see somebody else's relationship. I can talk about our relationship.
Okay, stay the topic. We're talking about celebrities right now.
Celebrities, hey, I'm a celebrity. I belong to the Christ Jesus. I'm a celebrity right now. So I can talk about our marriage.
Let me reel my wife back in for a minute, because I'm normally the one that get way off topic. We do this
But
at
I'm
home.
not way off topic.
So this is a front room setting. So let's talk about
I'm not off topic.
Okay, the influence of celebrity marriages, today's
Yes.
social media environment.
That's true. Yes.
And how their divorces have garnered so much momentum in the mindset of people, even having today married people, especially the young ones, the
Yes.
youngs who have, maybe come from single parent households, and they have not been part of a family unit and construct where
Right.
marriage is 30, 40, 50 years. And so they see these social influencers, because celebrities are social influence. They do influence your social morale. They influence your thought process to marriage planning in life. So I think today, when we look at the celebrities or affluent people, period, that we follow on social media, when there are things that go on in their life that causes for divorce, breakup, or breakdown, we don't get the entire backdrop.
Exactly.
And I think that's something people really have to think about. So if you have two celebrities today who are having marital problems, what is that called? TMZ or whoever may pick up the Google line or the tagline, the paparazzi. They put it out there. But you don't know the mental state they're dealing with.
Yes.
You don't know the spiritual state they're dealing with, the hurt that is in their heart, because they're social influencers. So there's a persona they have to keep up. You don't know what happens when they're driving home, on the 10
Exactly.
or, and they're breaking down in tears because they truly and really love their spouse, but because it's a inflection point, careers are going different ways. People are, one may be on the rise, one may be on the low, and they can't keep up the stigma or the persona they've created. So I think for all of us that read the tabloids, follow people on social media, we have to realize that they have a heart.
Yes.
That they are people, And just like the average Joe, which is me, they need prayer also. And so I think when we begin to want to curtail our life after somebody, we have to think about what they went through before they got there, what it's taken for them to stay there. And I think everybody needs to take a deep breath when we're analyzing celebrities and affluent people in social media, influencers, that they're human too.
Yes.
And we don't know what's going on behind closed doors.
Exactly, because we don't live with them.
That's my first point.
People take one headline and they say, oh, this is why they're getting divorced. You don't know if that's why they're getting divorced. You just know somebody put that headline out there, put that subject out about them. Oh, it happened because of this. Right. And that may not be what happened. You don't live there. You're not with them on the daily. You're not there when they wake up, when they go to sleep. So you don't know what their real disagreement that led to their divorce really was. But you may think, oh, that headline went out there. That's the same thing I'm going through. Me and my husband need to get a divorce. Why? You don't know. Unless you spent time in their shoes, in their home, in their life, you don't know what their real reason for getting a divorce is.
You know, why you bring that up, I think one of the issue is also with us as people, we can't vicariously try to live our life out through tabloids, through social media. And a lot of times, rather it's, the thing that's interesting, people we don't know sometimes, we want to live our life or pattern our life because we see the bling and success. Again, I said it, forestated, we don't know what it took for them to get there. But how can you want to pattern your life after people that you have no connection with? First of all, I love the way we were raised and the construct that we have, and that's being loyal at the core. So rather it's our natural parents, our spiritual parents, we have mentors, we're mentees to this day. But there are people where they're alive in our life. They have their level of stardom to us. They're stars. They have their level of followings and grace that's on them, because we believe the greatest grace on their life is when the Holy Spirit is operating for them. And so that puts them in a league all by themselves. But in saying that, it's still, we're not social media followers and say, iconic pastor, Bishop T.D. Jakes. We would be not stable people, I believe, to say we want to pattern our ministry and marriage behind them because we don't know what it took for them to get to that stage. We love them dearly. We applaud their success in ministry. But at the end of the day, we have to understand the grace what God gave us. So I say all of that for everybody today who is, following on Instagram, looking at the highlights of people's marriage, idolizing them and wanting to pattern your life after them and having a irrealistic, set of or irrealistic potential for your life. Even not saying God won't take you there, but sometimes just dial it down a little bit. Master your marriage, master your craft, master where you're at today, and know that God has a path set for you. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we really dig into divorce. As you said, dear, it's a hot topic today, and we're influenced by people with massive social appeal. And so I really believe in the midst of that, let's think about their lives. Let's, again, through the lens of faith, let's pray for them concerning what they're going through. Rather the marriage is going great and we love it, or rather they're at the brink of divorce.
Because at the end of the day, they are still human and spiritual beings.
Yes, they are.
They have hearts, they have feelings, and people tend to overlook that.
I agree.
Because they just see them out there. They'd be like, well, they're out there. So if they out there, all their business is my business. But all their business isn't your business. That's why you don't know the true depth or reason why they got divorced, why they're getting divorced, why they're going to counseling, why they need counseling. And they just may not have somebody in their life at that time that
to shelter
them and get them to the next level. And everyone thinks that just because they're celebrities, their business is our business. It's not true.
I like this. I'll share an interesting story. I happened to be on the plane one day, Philly to LA, and I can do this because this person signed a disclaimer years ago. I happened to be sitting next to a celebrity who everybody would know if I called his name. And they had been twice married and second divorced. And considering a third marriage, this particular person. And it blessed my heart as we sat on the plane next to each other. And he just began to pour out. And at that point, his mother was going through something as well. And we had prayer together. And he talked about the love for his wife and, wanting to get it together and understand being so career-oriented and the effect that it has, because there's a persona that they need to keep up and he needs to keep up. But I say that because that was a very intimate experience. And if I would have looked at just what I had read just in the airport that day, because he's front cover in the airport, and then happened to sit next to him, and on back then we had the little CD players, and I had my headphones on, and just so happened to have one of the movies he was a star in. So I share that just to say, be careful with the influencers, be careful the people you idolize, and know that God has something particularly for you, and he's going to bless your marriage. So just wanted to throw that out there before we deal with the hurt, the painfulness of divorce, what children go through that are subjected to a home that has went through divorce, especially when you have those children that love both parents equally. And that's a hard place for kids to be in. It's even a hard place for the divorcees to be in, because you're trying to navigate the children's emotions when they want the parents together. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, if you would lend us, your attention. We do a lot of marriage counseling. Said, I think, on maybe the second or third podcast, we are honored today that we have people that were part of our lives, part of our ministry that have, yes, I said ministry, that have been through divorce, and we've been able to maintain healthy relationships. When they're in a dilemma, they call us up and say, hey, need you to bring the kids in with us. And we will still do that, because in people's storm, they need a shelter. And you have to be willing to be a shelter to people, even when they're going through things that may break your code. I'm not a proponent of divorce, even though we're talking about it. And so that is something that is out of my code. But I understand everybody needs a shelter. They need a safe place. They need somebody that can talk them through it as they go to the next place in life. So there.
Unfortunately, sometimes divorce does happen. And some divorces, unfortunately, are necessary for mental growth, for spiritual growth. It just...
Can you break down what you mean by necessary a little bit? Because I don't want this to be out there vaguely.
Okay. Well, okay, so in the entrance of abuse, or someone feeling like they're abused, so now they feel like abuse is abuse. I don't have to really explain abuse, but there's mental abuse, there's physical abuse.
That's what I wanted you to break down.
Yes,
Thanks.
There's mental abuse, there's physical abuse, and there's different types. But when it comes to a point where you can no longer respect each other or each other's grounds or boundaries, it's a problem. And after you've been through counseling after counseling after counseling, and if you've tried, outside counseling outside of your church, and this is one of those things where I said counseling is necessary. And then you have to get counseling not only for each other, but for your children if there are children involved. There's nothing wrong with counseling. They still have, they have family counselors out there, and they still teach and do it biblically. is what I'm saying. There are psychologists, psychiatrists, and you don't need most people don't need a psychiatrist.
Some do.
Some do. But psychologists, they are there to help you grow when you have issues. And so yeah, the divorce is just it's crazy.
Painful.
It's painful.
It's painful.
And it is. It's painful, it's turbulent, and you need something outside of your normal to help you get through it.
Yeah. Can I highlight something? You know, when you talk about divorce, let's look at it this way. Marriage is the two becoming one.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you love somebody, mind, body, and spirit, and now you are severing what has been united as one,
Mm-hmm.
there is a whole nother mental challenge you go through.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole nother side of emotionalism, because if we got married for the right reasons,
Yes.
I'm going to pause and park that,
Mm-hmm.
and there's been true emotional intimacy, then that is a bond and a connection for whatever storm came in that you were not able to pass through. And I do believe with Christ, all things is possible, and if the marriage stays grounded, he will bring you through it. But as you said, well said, that there's a point of verbal abuse, mental abuse, physical abuse, and there are some things that you will break down and not even want to live any longer. Divorce is not something that the Bible condones, and that's why this is Conversations Beyond the Pulpit.
Yes.
This is not a safe space for me as a bishop, my wife as a pastor, for us to even talk about. But some of the most iconic pastors and bishops have been through divorce.
Yes.
And God has restored them. They have been remarried. It happens. And I understand what Moses has written, that we should not be divorced. I get it 100%. There's times when divorces have been necessary because the children have been affected. And I'm going to use a word that might be touching. If anybody has ever had to deal with this, I humbly apologize, but God wants us heal and deliver. There's times when children have been molested by their parents. And how do you keep a child in the house that is living through that? That is a difficult thing for a father, because molestation goes both ways.
Yes, it does.
Or for a mother to have to live with. And then when you look at the mental and the psychological effects it have on the children. Do I save the marriage and lose my children? So these are very complex situations. And so we talk about this today because it takes the grace of God. It takes the indwelling, infilling of his Holy Spirit. And that's why I said in the beginning, when we begin to look at these celebrity marriages, iconic marriages, we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You look at children who have become not so much latch kid children, but because they have nannies and different people, you don't know. But there's a persona that has to be kept up. So I would say today, when we talk about divorce, and think about the painfulness of it, think about undoing what you have put together, think about the complex mental situation the children go through. You know, when we were growing up, we seen parents stay together just because the children. It was a fact when we were growing up. They did anything for the kids because the kids didn't ask to come here. I don't know if the fervor to stay together because the children is what it was in the 60s and 70s and 80s when we were growing up. More than people now today say, I want hope, happiness, and freedom and liberty. But if you don't blend yourself into the right marriage and blend the families together, as we talked about previously, you know, you will take that trauma of the marriage into the new marriage. And parents, I will tell you, be careful, because in your pursuit of hope, happiness, fortune, success, or whatever it may be, you will find yourself losing your children.
Mm-hmm.
And so I applaud those parents that have been through divorce,
Mm-hmm.
have kept the children as the focal point of their life, and have been able to blend them into families and have the connectivity that even though we are not together, the children are still paramount. The children are
Yes.
still first and foremost in our
Mm-hmm.
life because they didn't ask to be here. We're not together, but they're still a part of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that respect comes in. And I tell people all the time, if you couldn't respect each other while you were married and now you're divorced, don't go off the ranch. Find a happy medium of respect that
Yes.
when your daughter looks at her father, she will know what how a man should be treated.
Yes.
And when your son looks at his mother, he will know how a woman is supposed to be
Yes.
and treated and respected. So that's the things that we have to navigate when we think about divorce, contemplate divorce, and decide that we no longer want to be together.
Mm-hmm. It's the truth.
Any more polish you want to put to that, dear?
No, I don't think so.
So
It's just,
go ahead.
if you gonna get divorced, think it through.
And
Do
it needs to be
everything
the
you
only
can.
option.
It has to be the only
thinking
option.
it through. Yeah, I can't stress
That's
this
what I
enough.
mean to say. It has to be your only option.
And
Because if there's a reason, plain and simple, because just mental abuse and all that stuff. There are some
Counseling,
cases.
there's things you can
Counseling.
do for
There's
that.
things you can do.
Ancillary things.
And even I'm gonna throw this out there. Even if it's because it's cheating.
yeah,
Okay, and a lot of people that I've talked to, they like, I can deal with that once or twice, but if it's a continual thing, but even that, the person may need counseling. They may have an issue. They may have something they dealing with on the inside that they
could be generational stuff.
It could be
we
generational
just talked about
stuff.
that yesterday in
Yes,
church.
it could be generational stuff. It could be plain and simple the lust.
Right.
The lust of the body, and they don't know how to deal with it. They need counseling.
They need counseling.
And you need to, and together you can find that out and work through it, because there's a lot of people that's been through it and never got divorced and happily married to this day, and never had to deal with it again because they sought help.
They sought help.
But-
And sought the Lord.
And sought the Lord. So it's not to say that it has to be the first thing you go through, the first thing you go to. The divorce should not be the first thing on your mind when dealing with something, when you've decided to become one with someone.
I can't stress enough, it needs to be the last resort after about 100 different things. And I'm using 100 as a small number that we can get. It needs to be after we put the pros, the cons, and counseling and going to the marriage couple retreat and all of the things we can do to keep the family unit together. We are not here as advocates of divorce. We are telling you we understand there are some extreme situations and you have exhausted all of your resolve. And this is where you found yourself. But if this is where you found yourself, then it needs to be a level of compassion and grace. God said to his chosen people, Israel, I will never give you a bill of divorcement. And they have cheated on God. They have been adulterous. They have lied on God. They've rebelled against God. They've done all kind of things. And he made a way. And some still haven't come to the way by sending Christ, our blessed Savior and Redeemer. What do you mean by that, Bishop? What does that have to do with divorce? A lot of time divorces take place because somebody don't want to make the sacrifice.
Yes.
And you don't want to sacrifice getting out of your old nature, getting out of your headiness, submitting yourself one to another in the sight of God. I'm not telling you our marriage is perfect. We've had our ups and downs. We've shared it. We're very transparent. Kids coming into our life or a son coming into our life. We've been through some stuff. We're not novices at this. But what we have learned is to exhaust our resources, pray to God, look at the struggles and complexities, and if all of that would have failed, I believe I know my wife well enough, and I know she knows me well enough, we would have looked at the impact it would have had on everyone around us. If we walked in Mom's house and said we were getting a divorce, first she would probably beat us both like we were 5 years old, but would be devastated. Our children wouldn't take it real well. And I'm not saying that's the reason why we're together and doing podcasts and we really love each other. I'm saying we understand, I do as a man, that man should love his wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself. I've had to make a lot of sacrifices in my life, and I've watched my wife submit in so many different ways. And I'm not talking sexually or anything like that. I'm just saying change things around in life that we could make our marriage better and make what God has given us thrive.
Yes, I mean, as he was talking, I was just sitting here thinking about some of the crazy reasons people talk about they want a divorce. And this is a story, I really can't remember where I heard it, but it brings back to mind. And it's somebody else's story, but the story was that I just can't take it anymore. His breath stinks so bad. I just don't want to be in the same room with him. I don't want to be around him. But, okay, well, have you tried to help him? Have you told him that that's going on? I've told him, and he does nothing about it. But
make him a
did
dentist
you help him?
appointment.
Did he go to the dentist? Is there something wrong with his teeth? Is there something wrong with his insides? Have you changed the way y'all eat? Have you tried all these things? But have you actually talked to him? Well, no, I don't want to say nothing to him because his breath stink. Well, you got to help him. If his breath stinking that bad is causing you that you want a divorce, that is more than just that issue. But what if he has a health issue that's causing it? And it's crazy because I'm telling y'all, I cannot remember where I heard it from. But yes, the woman was deciding to divorce her husband because his breath stinks so bad. And then once it really got to her children, they was like, well, Mom, something could really be wrong with him.
Yes.
And so come to find out, this was going on for almost a year. And she was like, I just can't take it no more. So finally, he went to the doctors because the daughter told him, well, Mom says she wants this divorce actually because your breath stinks so bad. So let's go to the doctors. Went to the doctors, come to find out, he had a cancer in his lungs that was causing his breath to stink. Thank God they found it in time.
Great.
They was able to remove it. Now he no longer had that issue. So it's like, you think about that.
Yes.
Think about it. If that's really the reason, there's a cause.
There's a cause.
And until you get to the deep-rooted issue, you can't fix it. You have to get to the deep issue before you just jump to divorce. Something's really got to be wrong. They start talking crazy, start talking off the wall. You ask the question, are you all right?
Yes.
Plain and simple. When we first started off, communication is key.
It's key.
For everything.
Even in the tough times.
Even in the tough times. Communication is key. If you don't have communication, you have nothing.
You know, let's talk. I want to just highlight something before we finish this podcast. You know, we're looking at divorce from a marriage perspective here, but there are so many, let's use that word divorce in the tonality of separation. Mm-hmm. There are so many separations of families, partnerships, businesses, because of the lack of communication, the putting yourself before other people, not understanding what unity in marriage looks like, supporting each other. But I love what you said. Sometimes we have to drill down, go the extra mile to find out what is the real issue here. And we can find some people are just wired certain ways, and you don't want to rewire your wires. Just a fact of the matter. Some people just they have this much. I used the word in the other part, risk tolerance. I have this much tolerance for this, and if it goes beyond my tolerance level, that's it. In sports, we have something called your second win, which means you get beyond your tolerance level. The body breaks down. You have exhausted, all of your attrition, and then something else kicks in mentally, physically. The micro neurons begin to send signals that you didn't even know existed, because in life, the body is wired to live.
Yes.
And so whenever there's a breakdown, stuff that you've never used before will begin to kick in. And one of our issues is we have not pushed ourselves or exhausted our tolerance level in marriages, in communications, in being unified, to know what else is in us beyond the threshold that we have put for our life. So I'll tell everybody today, push beyond what you think your coping level is, your tolerance level. It's just like, the body gets wounded real bad, and next thing you know, man, stuff start kicking in, other blood cells start trying to force blood there. You sprain, your ankle, fluids come near. The body is meant to live. Your marriage is meant to survive if you got married with the right agenda. And I'm going to use the word agenda there, because if the agenda's off, the marriage is off. So again, Conversations Beyond the Pulpit, exhaust your tolerance level, think about your family, think about your children before I exit out. Any comments there?
And the only other thing I want to say is, married people, stop going to your single friends
You say
for
it every
advice.
podcast.
I do. And I'm going to keep saying it, because you don't understand how important it is. Single people cannot give advice to married people. They haven't been there. They haven't done it. They don't know what they do. And their dating relationship doesn't work for a married couple.
Good point.
Not saying you can't have your friends, but as far as your relationship is concerned, they cannot be a part of your communication conversations.
This is a good point.
Just simple as that.
Growing up young in ministry, our pastor, the late awesome Bishop Evelyn M. Skyers, had a mantra. If you were not married X amount of years, if she could not see the consistency in a growth pattern of your marriage, you cannot give marriage counseling.
Exactly.
You cannot. Her saying was, the proof have to be in the pudding before you can make the pudding. And I don't know what all of that meant, but that's what she said to us a couple times. So, yeah, I would just say.
Meaning, if the proof isn't in the pudding, it won't thicken.
Okay, got it.
When you make pudding, it has to get to a thickened consistency in order to be considered pudding.
Okay.
If it doesn't get thick, then it's just watering.
See, I'm not a cook. I'm not a pudding maker or a baker.
I'm
so
just
going
to put that out there.
just helping promote Cooking with Michelle book right there. That's all. So, and please tune in, everybody. My wife has a wonderful cookbook coming out called Cooking with Michelle.
Cook with Michelle.
Cook with Michelle. If you look at all of our children and our frame, you can tell we have not missed too many meals. Healthy meals, good meals, but they're, great meals. Excellent cook. She cooks with love. It's part of our little kitchen talk. It's part of our healthy rivalry, because I do believe I'm the better cook. She's the better baker. But, the minute our church lost the cooking competition 2 weeks ago. So she's a woman, I'm a man, so I guess she's the better cooker for now until barbecue season falls back in. See, these are things you have to do to keep that healthy marriage going. So until we meet again, our friends, our well-wishers, all of our supporters, we love you. This is Conversations Beyond the Pulpit. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit that like button. Go on our Instagrams, go on our social media outlets, go on our church website, find out who we are, what we do. We are not novices. We come to you holistically, nothing script, organically, believing God is the answer to all things. But we've been through enough hard times, good times, sometimes in our life to communicate with you, we believe, within a parameter that you can make it even when you want to throw in the towel. Stay in there, stay married, and if you're divorced, have compassion and grace one to another, especially when you have children. Be a model example that we're not together, but we still have the love of Christ in our heart. We love you. Heaven smile upon you. Until next time, God bless you.